Hello everyone. In 1825, a French author wrote a book with a very famous quote, "Tell me what you eat and I'll tell you who you are." So if your gut has problems, you can have many problems with your brain, like low focus, low decision-making ability, memory issues, brain fog, low energy levels despite rest, tiredness, mood swings and irritability, lack of motivation, sleep problems, headaches, increased response to stress, anxiety and depression. And often these problems will accompany some other problems like skin issues, eczema, acne, muscle and joint pains, gut problems like indigestion, bloating, gas, difficulty digesting certain foods, acid reflux, and some other issues. So in this video, for the better understanding, first we will discuss the gut's microbiome. Then we will discuss the enteric nervous system, which is also famously called the second brain. And I will also discuss why it is called the second brain. Further, we will discuss how our gut is connected to the brain, referred to as gut-brain axis. And then we will discuss how our gut's health affects the brain and causes all these problems I have discussed before. Then we will discuss what is leaky gut, leaky brain. I will discuss also what are the reasons for poor gut health. And in the end, very importantly, I will discuss that how we can improve our gut health for the better brain functioning. I know that with so much information available around us, our ability to focus has decreased drastically. Therefore, I have tried to keep this video as short as possible, but in a way that the depth of information is not affected. Therefore, I would really suggest to stay with me for the next couple of minutes, as this concerns your brain, which eventually makes who we are. This is my job, to make the concepts super digestible for you. By the way, I'm Dr. Zulkifal and I'm a neuroscientist with a PhD. The concept of connection between digestion, emotions and behavior has roots in ancient Chinese, Greek, and Indian traditional medicine. But this research area lacked significant advancements until recently, with major advancements in methods and technologies, equipments, and computational field. All these advancements has led to the popularity and better understanding of the gut-brain crosstalk. And in the last few years, particularly in 2024, we saw a number of outstanding studies published in reputed journals like Nature. And currently, it is the very hot topic. So let's first discuss what is gut microbiota and microbiome. Microbes have always lived in and on humans, playing a crucial role in our health. Over time, humans and microbes have developed this give and take relationship. We provide them food and a safe place to live, and in return, they help our bodies function properly. Let me first clear the difference between microbiota and microbiome. So microbiota refers to the collection of microorganisms, bacteria, virus, fungi, and archaea that live in a specific environment such as gut, skin, mouth, or lungs. And all these bacteria, viruses, fungi in the gut are called gut microbiota. On the other side, microbiome refers to the entire ecosystem of these microorganisms plus their genetic material, metabolites, and interactions with the host. The human gastrointestinal tract is populated with the most diverse microbial community in the human body. Approximately 2,000 bacterial species have been identified in the human gut, and it is estimated that the gut microbiota contains nearly 150 times more genes than the human genome. It is also estimated the total weight of the gut microbiota is approximately same as your brain. 2 to 3 kg of your body weight. Gut microbiome is very important from the early stages of life. It plays crucial role from the infancy, contributing to the development of the immune system and producing essential nutrients around 4 months of age. It matures into the adult-like stage by 3 to 6 years and remains stable throughout adulthood. So our microbiome in the gut functions like an organ, providing vital nutrients and factors essential for the overall growth of the cardiovascular, neurological, and psychological development. It also plays very important role in our immunity, which we will discuss later. And the gut microbiota, very importantly, produces neurotransmitters like serotonin, dopamine, and gamma aminobutyric acid, which we call GABA, GABA, along with some other neurotransmitters. These are the same neurotransmitters which are also found in our brain, and they play a very important role in regulating our mood, emotions, happiness, learning, and many other brain functions which we will discuss in next section. Now, after discussing the microbiota and microbiome of our gut, let's move on to the next section, the enteric nervous system. Enteric means the gut. So our gut has its own nervous system, most famously referred as the second brain. It is a complex network of neurons embedded in the walls of gastrointestinal tract, and remarkably, given its importance, it operates independently of the central nervous system. Though there is connection, which we will discuss, it releases a range of hormones and neurotransmitters to regulate the movements in the GIT, sensations, absorption, and secretory functions in the gut. Evolutionarily, the enteric nervous system is considered one of the earliest forms of the nervous system, which was developed even before our central nervous system. This historical significance underscores its fundamental role in the organism's function. And very recent research has suggested that enteric nervous system can perform higher order functions like learning and memory, and this indicates a level of sophistication previously unrecognized. Now, after discussing briefly enteric nervous system, let's move to the next section, how our gut is connected to the brain. Although the gut and the brain are anatomically separated, but their connection is very strong, and there are several mechanisms through which the gut and the brain communicate with each other. In this video, I will discuss three most important mechanisms for the gut-brain communication. First, the communication through vagus nerve. Second, the communication through immune system. And third, the communication through some hormones and glands. So how gut and brain communicate through vagus nerve? Vagus nerve is a 10th cranial nerve. A nerve means that it has many neurons, many fibers, and the cranial nerves, they originate from the brain. They collect information and bring it back to the brain, but also from the brain, these cranial nerves communicate the commands to the parts of the body. So the vagus nerve connects the brain with the gut. It has two kinds of fibers. The afferent fibers, which are also called sensory fibers. These are the fibers which collect the information in the gut and bring it back to the brain. So in the gut, there are receptors for the pressure, which are called mechanoreceptors. There are receptors for the neurotransmitters. These fibers can bring the information related to secretion of some compounds, peptides, microbial metabolites, and they bring these information to the brain. Another kind of vagus nerve fibers are the efferent fibers. They are also called motor fibers. They arise from the brain and they convey the commands from the brain to the gut, which can as a result regulate the movements of the gut, secretions in the gut, secretion of pancreatic and adrenal glands, and endocrine activity. And so the vagus nerve plays an important role in facilitating the bidirectionality of the gut-brain axis. The second mechanism through which the gut and the brain communicates is through immune system. According to some estimates, around 70% of the immune system is located in the gut. That is also one of the reasons that if your gut has some problem, your immune system becomes weakened. So how the gut communicates with the brain? Through this mechanism. Gut bacteria produce metabolites like short chain fatty acids and toxins. Now these metabolites, they enter the bloodstream and they travel to the brain. Now if the gut is healthy, these bacteria will produce beneficial compounds which will travel to the brain through the blood. But if there is a problem in the gut, these bacteria will release toxins. These toxins will enter the blood. In the blood, immune cells will get activated. So the immune cells will release cytokines, particularly the inflammatory cytokines, which are the chemical messengers. Now these inflammatory messengers will activate the immune cells in the brain, and as a result, they will cause neuroinflammation. This neuroinflammation will then disrupt the neurotransmitter balance in the brain. Some studies have even suggested the shrinkage of some areas because of the neuroinflammation. Now this neuroinflammation could cause brain fog, difficulty in concentration, low decision-making ability, mood swings, irritability, sleep problems, memory problems, anxiety, depression, and neurodegenerative diseases. Now, if the gut is healthy, the microbiome in the gut releases anti-inflammatory compounds. These anti-inflammatory compounds travel to the brain through blood and protect the brain from inflammation. Even if some other factors are causing neuroinflammation, these compounds will prevent that inflammation. Third mechanism through which brain and gut are connected is neuroendocrine system. So in these mechanisms, brain and the gut communicate with each other through hormones and signaling molecules. The gut produces various hormones and neuropeptides such as ghrelin, cholecystokinin, some other peptides which will travel to the brain and influence the brain's function and behavior. Now these gut-derived hormones and the peptides, they can either travel through the blood or they can send signals through the vagus nerve, and therefore they will affect the areas of the brain involved in appetite regulation, mood, and stress response. On the other hand, the brain can influence the gut function through the release of stress hormones like cortisol, which can alter gut motility, secretion, and also the permeability. This bidirectional communication also allows the gut and the brain to constantly exchange the information, influencing each other's function. I hope that I have established a strong connection between the brain and the gut by discussing these three mechanisms. Now let's dive a little bit deeper into one mechanism, how gut can influence brain through vagus nerve. In this mechanism, we will talk about just one neurotransmitter, the serotonin. How gut uses serotonin to influence the brain's functions. So serotonin is a very important neurotransmitter. Also in the brain, it has roles in mood regulation, feelings, emotions, cognition, learning, and many other very important functions. 90 to 95% of our total body's serotonin is produced in the gut. But this serotonin does not travel to the brain. It cannot enter the blood-brain barrier. The brain produces its own serotonin from the amino acid tryptophan. Tryptophan can penetrate the blood-brain barrier. So if the brain is producing its own serotonin, then how gut serotonin influences the brain's functions? So what happens that the gut linings have these special kind of cells which are called enterochromaffin cells. These cells, in response to food, gut bacteria, and mechanical stimulation, the stretching of the intestine, they produce serotonin. Now, as we discussed before, that the gut has afferent neurons, or the sensory neurons of the vagus nerve. These neurons have receptors for the serotonin. So when there is a release of serotonin, these neurons get activated, which convey the information from the gut to the brain, which then modulates the activity of the brain in very key areas involved in mood regulation. For example, the limbic system, prefrontal cortex, areas related to the cognition, like for example, hippocampus, which is crucial for learning and memory. So this serotonin signaling also causes some behavioral changes through circuits related to stress, motivation, and reward. Another thing vagus nerve does that it can also stimulate the release of brain-derived neurotrophic factor. It is shortly also called BDNF, and it has a role in the formation of the new neurons in neuroplasticity. It can modulate the dopamine and as a result influence mood, focus, and emotional responses. This vagus nerve signaling also regulates the serotonin production in the brain. How? The gut-derived signals can increase the transport of tryptophan, which is an amino acid, and serotonin is produced from tryptophan. So the more tryptophan in the brain leads to the more synthesis of the serotonin in the brain. Vagus nerve stimulation is used as a treatment for depression and anxiety by enhancing serotonin and dopamine in the brain. And it is FDA approved, and it has been found very effective in treatment-resistant depression. It is a type of depression in which the medications have no effect. So this was the example of just one neurotransmitter, serotonin. There are also many other mechanisms through which your gut can influence your brain. So if your gut is healthy, it will be sending signals to the brain which will result in the more production of the serotonin, dopamine. As a result, all these brain functions will improve. But on the other side, if there is a problem in the gut, it will send these signals, and as a result, you will have all these brain problems. Now, very briefly, what is leaky gut and leaky brain? So the leaky gut is a condition in which the walls of the intestine become more permeable. Bacteria and toxins can potentially pass through these pores and enter the bloodstream. In the bloodstreams, these bacteria and the toxins will activate the immune response, leading to the systemic inflammation. So the concept of leaky gut as a stand-alone medical condition is not widely accepted in the mainstream medicine, but the phenomena of increased intestinal permeability is recognized and associated with various other health issues. As we have discussed that there is a communication between the gut and the brain. So if there is a problem with the gut, the brain will signal the release of the cortisol, which is a stress hormone. The cortisol will alter the gut bacteria, increase the inflammation, and weaken the intestinal barrier because the cortisol breaks down tight junctions. These are the junctions through which different cells are connected in the intestinal lining, and these tight junctions function as like a cement between the different cells. Cortisol will break down this cement and this will weaken the intestinal barrier. This will allow the harmful substances to enter into the bloodstream, triggering immune reactions and as a result neuroinflammation. And so the relationship between the stress and the gut health is like a vicious cycle. They keep increasing each other. The leaky brain, in which the blood-brain barrier becomes more permeable, and it happens because of the inflammation, systemic inflammation in the body. This allows the harmful substances to enter and affect the brain. Now, after discussing all that, let's discuss what are the reasons for the bad gut health. First, main and the most important is the dietary related factors. High sugar intake, the diets rich in simple sugars disrupt the intestinal barrier and trigger inflammation. Processed foods, our current diet lacks fibers and the micronutrients and contain additives which can harm our microbiota. High-fat diets, especially from the animal sources, can negatively affect the gut bacteria. Lifestyle factors are another major cause. For example, chronic stress, which I have already discussed. Lack of sleep. The insufficient sleep can also negatively affect our gut health. One of the most important, insufficient physical activity. Sedentary life is one of the major causes of the gut-related problems. Alcohol consumption. Alcohol consumption is also another cause of the poor gut health. Medications like antibiotics can cause significant alterations in the body's natural microbiota. Non-steroidal anti-inflammatory drugs, mostly used as painkillers, can also affect the gut health negatively. Poor dental hygiene. This allows harmful bacteria to grow out of balance in the mouth. Now, most importantly, how to improve gut health. Now, let's make a list and keep checking as I keep discussing. The first and the most important major step is the dietary changes. So in the dietary changes, first comes processed sugars and foods. If you are consuming processed sugars and foods, you will have to reduce it. Better stop that. To satisfy your sweet tooth, you can start using honey, which will provide you unique probiotics. Talking about probiotics, which are the beneficial bacteria, brings me to the second point. Are you consuming probiotics in your diet like yogurt, olives, apples, kimchi, apple cider vinegar, etc.? If not, you can start using them. If yes, then third step. So, okay, you are consuming the probiotics, the beneficial bacteria, but are you arranging foods for these bacteria, which are called prebiotics? These are the fibers and are present in banana, onions, garlic, almonds, and the rest. You can search about the prebiotics. Besides the prebiotic, are you incorporating enough fiber in your diet like kidney beans, chickpeas, lentils, avocados, green leafy vegetables, and fruits? The second major section is lifestyle changes. Are you living a sedentary life? And of course, the life is stressful. If yes, then you will have to incorporate some physical activity and some breathing exercises in your life. I have discussed these things in detail in another video, how I take care of my brain as a neuroscientist. So you can have a look at that video. If you have kids, you will have to let them expose to outdoors, to some form of playing in the soil, around the plants. Are you taking antibiotics too frequently and unnecessarily? Then you will have to talk to your physician about that. Are you consuming alcohol too often or overusing non-steroidal anti-inflammatory drugs? Are you maintaining oral hygiene? Are you living alone? Because who you interact with, family, friends, pets, influences your microbiome through microbial exchange, skin contact, breathing, kissing. First of all, majority of us will be able to identify the problem with our gut and with our brain through the steps I have mentioned. If there is still a problem, that means you could be having some medical condition and you will have to talk to your healthcare provider. I hope you like this video. I would really appreciate if you can like, subscribe, and write your thoughts in the comments. In the next video, I will explain how some of the widely watched social media content is damaging your brain.